Welcome, friends, to episode 111. That is actually very cool. 111 of Color of Magic. I am your host, Daquan Watson. And as always, for 111 episodes, still hanging with the same dude. He hasn't gotten tired of me yet. Brian Allen, how are you doing, dude?
I'm doing pretty good. No major complaints. Is it getting ready to consume mass quantities this week?
Man, you ain't lying. But yeah, I gotta say, like, Thanksgiving's a weird holiday because I remember it's for me. Thanksgiving and Columbus Day both felt weird as a kid. Like as I learned about them,
Yeah.
I remember trying to ask adults, like, we're celebrating a thing where we were nice to people, but then shortly after we just killed them and sold their things. Like that's a weird thing to celebrate. Like we're gonna ignore the stuff that came after this, but this little window of time, that was awesome.
Isn't that most American holidays, though? 4th of July, unless you were black. Yeah, it was great.
Oh
You
yeah, wait.
know?
Well, we were talking about Columbus Day too on the stream the other day. I said Columbus literally did everything wrong, right? Like he decided,
Yeah.
I'm going to travel this way to get to Asia or whatever on the other side, which wasn't possible. Like got off course, landed in a spot that wasn't where he even thought he was, and was like, we're just going to call this. And then magically we celebrate that day. And it's like, when else do you celebrate somebody making 3 or 4 major mistakes, still not getting the outcome they want? Because it's not like he stumbled into the right solution. Like he
No.
left wrong.
Didn't know
Right?
what hemisphere he was in.
Yeah, I'm just like, that's crazy. Like the fact that that's a thing. And I'm like, why? Why did that even get decided that that was a holiday? Like, and it was weird because, like I said, as a kid, I was totally cool with it till I started learning more about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but he then didn't really discover anything, named everything wrong, and then never really got where he was going. So, like, what are we celebrating? But then, if you think about it, that's kind of America in a nutshell these days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe we were just ahead of the curve. But anyway, before we get into the rest of the show, we do want to give some love to our sponsors over at Cardsphere.com. Great place to buy and sell cards at the price you want. And, just a good resource. If you just want to look up pricing, if you want to just see what things are going for, if you just want to read some articles from my main man, Brian, he's got stuff over there. But they do support a lot of people out here doing good content in the Magic community. So give them some love over at Cardsphere.com. They'll appreciate it. We'll appreciate it. Because if you're supporting them, they can keep supporting us. You know how that works. And if you want to support the show, you can go over to patreon.com/color of magic, where we are really, really loving everybody coming through. I'm still amazed how many people come through the Patreon, how many people listen to our show. Because, we've talked about it before, especially with Thanksgiving coming up, being thankful that people even give a damn about this type of gaming content or whatever, and people
Right.
appreciate it. So thank you so much. But as we've started before, we want to start doing some shout outs to our patrons. And this week, we're going to give a shout out to Adam Klesch. Some of you may know him because he's been involved in some other podcasts and done some creative design work for Magic, aspiring creative design work for Magic, not actually working for Wizards. But I did get to work with Adam at Card Kingdom. Really cool dude. And he also has a podcast. Him and his wife do, I guess you say, 5 to 10 minute short podcasts called the Cheeseburger Buddies, where they literally travel around the greater Seattle area and elsewhere trying cheeseburgers and rating them on an odd, I think, like 5-point scale they each have. And it's kind of cute and fun. So if you want some short little snippets to entertain yourself, go check out Cheeseburger Buddies. It's pretty fun. And then, as usual, you can go to colorofmtg.com/shop if you want to pick up some tokens or some playmats. And I might have another cool thing coming in the future, so stay tuned just after Christmas. We might have some things lining up there. And we got to bring up our latest sponsor, manscaped.com. They are an amazing place to get some great grooming products. And again, yes, they're supporting the show. So, but I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt. Like I actually use their stuff and it's good. It's good. It leaves you feeling good. It leaves you feeling confident. And like I said, I promoted it for a couple of weeks now, but their little weed whacker on your nose, like that thing does the job. Such a surprising little tool for what it is. And right now, they have a Black Friday sale. So I believe through Monday, if you go to the website, you can get 25% off and free shipping. Remember to use promo code COLOR. That gets you 25% off and free shipping anywhere in the world. Use promo code COLOR so they know that we sent you and we can get some credit for sending you their way, and they'll keep supporting the show. So yeah, if you need some stuff, if you want to get, like we were talking about last week, fix up the perfect package for your perfect package, go check them out over at manscaped.com. Remember to use promo code COLOR and get 25% off everything on the site and free shipping no matter where you are in the world. Now, with all those bills paid, it's time to get into a real good one here on the soapbox. And apparently, I got a crowd this week on social media, so I might need the double stocked apple crates. The soapboxes might be big enough. But this week, and I'll admit, it started out very passive, right? Because I see people that post first if they're the first commenter on a video, right? Or second in some cases because they think it's cute. And on my personal content, I always see that and think like, what's the point of this? Right? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't encourage anybody else to want to watch the video. It doesn't help me as a creator know if I'm doing something good or bad in the video. It's literally just a thing. Honestly, part of the time, I even delete some of them. Not going to lie. Because they're pointless. But then I was like, well, let me ask people. Maybe there's something here that I'm missing. Right? So I asked people like, hey, why do people feel the need to post first or second on videos they go up? Because they didn't feel like it really does anything. And generally, they don't contribute to discussion, so I'd rather just delete them. Partly because even when I go to read comments or something, like I hate scrolling past silly stuff like that. That's just me personally. Again, I'm okay being on an island here, being somebody who just doesn't care for it, and it's just a fun internet meme. Now, when some people came around and said, yeah, it's just a thing, it's a carryover from the 90s, it's funny, it's a meme, blah, blah, whatever. And I'm like, well, whether it's funny or not, we have different ideas of humor. But I get it. Memes are memes. Some people like to meme it up. We still get people to get rickrolled. You know what I mean? And rickrolls have been around, gosh, I don't know, 25 years or something it feels like. So, all right, is what it is. But where it became a little bit contentious is when people are like, well, it's a way for somebody to show they really liked your content. Well, no, that's not true. Because I can post a 15, 20-minute video, but within the first 3 minutes, you're posting first. Which means you absolutely did not consume that content. You didn't even have a moment to watch that video. You just posted first, and that was it. Then somebody said, well, you shouldn't care because it helps the algorithm and they're going to, it's interactions on your video, whatever. Two things. One random ass comment ain't going to do much of anything. It's a snowball of comments that really do something. Two, it's largely believed that those type of comments are some that don't actually register, the same way that when people post for the algorithm knows to look for that. So those are just people that already support you that are just putting a thing and they're not really contributing. And they're also trained to look for one-word comments to try to weed out a bunch of the bots and other stuff. So now YouTube and Google have not said this, but several groups I'm in or people that I've asked have a belief that these things have been in some ways either negated or not registered because of the things they're trying to do to make the platform better, which all makes sense. So whether it's true or not, I don't know. Just saying it makes sense. It's out there. But to say or use the excuse that you're doing this to support the creator, I'm just going to say it. It's bullshit. Like you can't because what you're saying then is, well, this person wants to support you and leave a comment, but they only want to do it when they get to post first. That doesn't even make sense. Like if you are seriously trying to support somebody and you want people to know about their video, then post something about like, oh, it's cool you brought up this thing in your video. Oh, your new lighting is awesome, or whatever they saw in your video that they liked, right? But to say that they're posting the first comment because they like your content or because they want to support you or they want to like build up your algorithmic stuff or whatever, but they don't ever post except for when they're the first, then you don't really want to support about somebody. You really don't care about somebody. Like, that's like saying, well, I support LGBT people, but only during Gay Pride Month. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like, you're saying, like, well, when it's convenient and there's a thing, then I support them. But I support them the rest of the time. I just don't say anything about it. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, and like I said, totally fine. If you just tell me, it's just a dumb, funny thing people do. It's memey, it's passive. Hell, I'm a sports fan. I see all the dumb things people do because they don't want to get up during a play because their team might throw an interception and they're going to be responsible or whatever. Like, doesn't make any sense. But like, I get it. We're humans. We do dumb things and we find silly things entertaining. I can buy that all day. But don't sit here and tell me it's because they want to support the content or they really like what you did, because that is complete and utter bullshit. Absolutely is 100%. And I told people, like, totally fine being on an island and just say, like, I get it. It's a thing I don't care for. Internet loves it. Just keep letting you do your thing. Somebody even called me out and said, you know what? When you do delete one, you might be taking away somebody's fun. And I was like, you know what? You might be right. Maybe I shouldn't delete the comments. I should just leave them. If for that reason, if nothing else, it's just something simple and fun for somebody, I should just leave it up. Totally willing to own that. And that's what I told people. I said, totally fine. No problem if you're telling me it's just a fun, silly thing. But the minute you say it's about support and those people don't do anything else to support the creator, you're doing nothing else to build their content, you're probably not even sharing their videos or telling people about them. Hell, some of the people I've seen post weren't even subscribed to my stuff. They just posted first because they were able to post first. So, like, don't give me any of that crap. And I'm sure it's happening on everybody else's content. I'm just speaking on mine because that's what I can see. But yeah, like that whole thing of first, like, I'm fine. Keep doing it if you think it's funny and fun and whatever. Go for it. But don't put the pretense on it, the fake pretense on it that, well, I'm going to post first because this supports the creator. Okay, cool. Then the next time you can't post first, go post something else on their videos. The next time somebody else has already posted first and you didn't get to, go share their video. Go tell people about them. Retweet some good stuff they're putting out there to help them make some ad dollars or whatever from their sponsors. Like, that's how you can support somebody. Okay. Got that. I'm like, good thing it's cool up here in the Northwest. I ain't breaking a sweat or nothing. Like, all right. But I'm going to step down because, Brian, you actually have a pretty interesting one by comparison. So I'm gonna hand this off to you because I'm sure I got some people heated a second ago and yours give people a chance to cool down.
Yeah, apparently 2 actors have either left or been dismissed from ABC's long-running soap opera General Hospital because they don't want to get the vaccine, which is somebody, that is constantly looking for acting jobs. Just blows my mind that somebody's willing to throw away an acting job. In the case of Steve Burton, a job he's had and a character he has played for 3 decades rather than get the COVID vaccine.
I was just thinking, when you said that name, I was like, I feel like I've seen that dude doing talk shows and stuff for a while, so he must have been doing it for a long time.
You probably have. He's been on there for about 30 years playing the same character, and of course, as we know actors, and obviously we know, Stallone is not Rambo. This character, is a tough guy, badass, hitman, survives death every week. But hey, the COVID vaccine, I'm out. That's way too much.
Man,
this is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about it like you're on a TV set, right? And some of these sets aren't huge because they're just a room, that you're supposed to be doing a scene in. You've got your actors on set, you've got stagehands, you've got makeup artists, you've got lighting people, you've got camera crews, you've got directors, producers. That's a lot of people you're around all day, to do a 8 or 10 hour shooting day. Like, and not counting if you have to go back to your dressing room or a trailer, and that's a small space. And like, man, I don't know.
General Hospital, by the way, they didn't, do this, just because they feel like it. They had an outbreak on set, which is why they're the only one of I believe there's 4 soap operas left on television that still that has a vaccine mandate, because they had an outbreak into serious business over there. So they're not doing this, just because willy-nilly. They had an outbreak. Now they have a vaccine mandate to make sure they don't have another one. Because, again, reasonably small sets in closed spaces, and you're affecting countless people.
Man, that makes it tough because, like, if you've already had an outbreak, like, you can't be like, oh, well, COVID's not that bad, or it's not really going around, or whatever. It's like, man, if I was on the set and I was one of the people that got COVID, I'd be mad.
Yeah.
Like, because that person's basically saying, like, well, I know you got COVID, but it probably wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? Like, man, yeah.
And just, I will likely never be fortunate enough to have at this point, if I have a 3-decade acting gig, I'll be 100 by the time I finish it. But it blows my mind. I'm going to assume they both saved up their money. I'm hoping that's the case. Or maybe they're angling for a job on Fox News. That may be a thing also.
Man, that's oof. I don't know. That would make even if they stayed, that would make for just a bad working environment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's one where you almost have to go at that point. Like, ugh.
Just unbelievable to me that, again, I'm assuming they saved their money, feel like they don't need that particular acting gig anymore if they got to get the vaccine.
I guess not. Yeah. I mean, I guess we got enough money. You don't have to care. Maybe
I think also about, when you've played I get maybe wanting to play a different character or something. I've seen actors do things like that, but for actors that claim they really care about their characters, hope they can come back someday after the vaccine mandate is gone. Is it that critical?
I mean, I wonder if that's just like, I'm too prideful to walk away from the show, so I'm going to use this as an excuse to walk away, kind of a thing. Like, because I can
in Bird's case, I don't think it is, because it's obvious they were not prepared for this. Just the way they threw everything together and dropped him under a tunnel. It's like, I don't think they planned on him leaving. They figured, okay, he'll buckle down, he'll get the vaccine, because he's a major character.
Yeah, has
been for a long time.
Because I would the other actor. Like, I could almost see just being tired of it after doing it for that long. But hell, there's people that have been doing Law and Order for 20 years and don't seem to be slowing down. So
I can't imagine you get tired of the check and the security for, again, those of us that are going from project to project and not knowing what our next project is. It just blows my mind. I mean, yeah, I don't want to be Jason. That's one of the reasons actors love soap operas, even if they don't feel like they're. Even if they feel like they're really going to do something, it's such a steady paycheck as your main character.
Is it Marisha Hargitay, I think is her name, from SVU or whatever?
Yeah.
She's been on, I think, from the beginning. And
right?
she's just been in the whole time. Like, I don't know if I mentioned it on the show, but I remember one day watching SVU, because I don't watch it regularly, right? But I remember watching and thinking, oh crap, this dude that's now like the DA or whatever, he's gotten promotions in real time.
Great.
Like, he's been on the show so long. He started out at like a lower level, was like the intern, did this thing with help with like investigations, and now he's like up at the DA or whatever. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, somebody had a fake career longer than some people's real careers and got real-time promotions. Like, that's how long some shows are on TV. That is so wild to be in this.
It's crazy because they canceled the OG Law and Order, and I guess didn't realize before they canceled, or maybe whoever was in charge of that at the time just didn't care, but they would have just coasted through Gunsmoke's record of being the longest running TV show of all time. Most shows don't have a chance, because I think Gunsmoke was like 25 years or something crazy.
Well, yeah, so most shows, the record for the longest running episodic televised show and the most episodes is actually Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Like, which is, of all things, like, when I found that out a couple of years ago, I went like, well, yeah, that makes sense, because you almost don't have an off season. So you're just...
Yeah, every week they're cranking. That's one of the reasons we stick with it, is it may be incredibly dumb sometimes, but it's new to some extent.
Always.
But yeah, I guess they didn't care about breaking Gunsmoke's record until recently. They was, wait, we still can. We still come back, and it's Law and Order. It's like 2 or 3 seasons away, I think. Yep. But yeah, they'll come back. They'll break it.
That's crazy. Well, let's talk about more fun and interesting things. Because, you know, like we say around here, we like to get better, we like to get smarter, and we like sharing things that we learn throughout the week. So what you got, Brian?
All right. Apparently, they found, one of the main things they learned while they dig up dinosaur fossils. A dinosaur skeleton from over 300 million years ago got a form of bone cancer. So yes, cancer for all dinosaurs, by the way, do get cancer. And I mean, cancer has been around for more than 300 million years. So everybody thinking that we cooked it up in a lab somewhere. No, it's been around since BC.
Man, that's like cancer's the OG then. Like, I mean, cancer's looking around at like syphilis going, nah, listen here, young blood. Let me tell you how it's done.
Taking out T-Rexes.
That's crazy, though. I guess it makes sense from what we know about cancers, though. I don't know if I would ever really thought about dinosaurs and cancer, but like,
no, I didn't.
I guess it kind of makes sense, though. Like, that's interesting because I feel like, you know, we talked off the air. Like, you know, we heard about stuff from like, you know, the early 1800s, and then we heard about stuff, Egyptian stuff that we've discovered that people might have had cancer and whatever. So it's like, the further back we go, we keep finding instances of cancer or cancer-like things. So I guess it kind of stands to reason that it's always been a thing. Kind of a cool fact, though.
And speaking of that, I guess this will be kind of a bonus. Did we learn? Because, you know, one of the things they used to say about Alexander the Great is that he was truly descended from the gods, because they said his corpse didn't even start decaying for 5 or 6 days. They're thinking now he may not have been dead and actually had Guillain-Barré syndrome and was just paralyzed for 5 or 6 days before he died.
Oh, that's grim.
Yeah, but back then they were like, see, that's proof he's a god because his corpse isn't even decaying.
Well, yeah, when you don't know anything, like...
Yeah, when you have never heard of Guillain-Barré before.
I guess he's dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's messed up. That's messed up. Well, mine is equally messed up because I woke up to some messages and some posts where conspiracy theorists were at it big time this morning, which we've joked around here on the show. I'm down for a good conspiracy, but there's usually something that happens, whether it's in the news or a new piece of information or whatever, that kind of leads people thinking down a path, right? So I at least need the conspiracy to have some logic, right? But this one, it was Nike's now supporting the Chinese leader. And I'm like, what? Like they're now naming things after him and whatever. And I'm like, well, okay, this obviously can't be true, right? Exactly. That was my reaction. So I go and start trying to figure out what this is related to. And I can't find anything immediately. So I'm like, I don't really understand, right? There's got to be something here. And then I realized I saw this thing from a couple days ago that on December 11th, Nike's reissuing some Jordans. They're a white sole, gray on gray colorway of the Jordan 11s. And I was like, okay, so Air Jordan 11s, right? Follow me here.
Right.
When they put out their tweets or social posts, they abbreviated it as AJXI because it's Air Jordan. Roman numeral 11.
11, yeah.
Well, the Chinese leader's name is Z.
I see where this is going.
Which is XI. And since they already produce shoes overseas, exactly, people made that leap in logic. And I was just like, y'all, like if it was at least a new shoe, I would understand. But this is literally an old shoe they're just reissuing. Like, come on.
Because I can't tell you how many times I bought an American tennis shoe named after a dictator. Yeah, that happens all the time. Yo, you got them Kim Jongs, bro?
Yeah, exactly. You got them new Kim Jong-uns? Like,
no, they have Vladimir Putin, 100.
Yeah, exactly. Them Putin 25s are tight. Like, come on, man. Like,
Thanos was right.
And the crazy thing to me is like, it took me a while to process even, because I'm like, doing a deep dive, like, there has to be something Nike posted recently that got people saying this, right? So, and then when I realized what it was, I'm like, you're kidding. Like, like, that's all? It's like, come on, people. So, of course, there were already folks trying to explain to people, like, look, these aren't even new shoes, y'all. These are things, you know, we have the Jordan 16s and the 5s and whatever, and sometimes they reissue them with new colors or to match new promotions and blah, 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 you know. But, yeah, crazy stuff. But anyway, that's what I got to learn today, which was hilarious.
Wow. Just wow.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the rest of the actual game news today. We did talk about last week the Vegas Magic event, or Magic the Gathering Vegas as it was called. And social media was kind of full of content from that event. If you were in Magic Internet, I guess if you want to call it, because there's Magic Twitter and there's Magic Facebook and whatever. If you were in those circles, you saw a lot, and I'm sure you saw a lot on your feed too. Just people at the event, people with the vendors and the artists, and people going out to eat, and different players, and the personalities getting to hang out with the fans and sign things, and it was a fun celebration, I guess, of just like, hey, let's get back to gathering again. We all kind of stayed at home for 2 years almost, and hadn't seen anybody, hadn't played big events, so it was fun to kind of like see that again after not seeing it forever. That was a fun change of pace. And one of the things that came out of it that we saw a lot of people talking about was that there were a couple of, I say a lot, I saw several mentions, I won't say it was a ton, but people saying there were more women, feminines, non-binary folks, that they didn't remember seeing prior to the pandemic. And that kind of got me thinking a little bit about, did COVID in some way help us clean up our physical paper events? And the reason I say that is because I remembered people saying similar things about the Fab tournaments, the Flesh and Blood events, right? That, oh, there seems to be like a slightly nicer crowd and there's more women here playing or whatever. And for a minute, people are like, oh, I wonder if this is just a product of Flesh and Blood being a thing. But then now that we're seeing it with Magic as well, it's kind of making me question some stuff, right? Like, well, first off, where did the bad actors go? So my logic after really trying to like piece this out and talking to a couple people is that maybe, and this is just speculative. I mean, this is just like putting a bunch of things together and taking a shot in the dark here. But some of what allows those people to have that attitude and be that type of person is because they're around those type of people to keep encouraging it and say that behavior is okay.
Yeah.
But during the time of COVID, you didn't get invited to play with people on Spell Table, right? Like, you weren't getting invited to people's Discords. Hell, some people are getting booted out of Discords, right? You're getting blocked on Twitter or whatever. So you're not getting to engage with that negativity or have that attitude the way you're used to. So one of two things either happens. Those people eventually get completely disenchanted, disinterested, whatever, and they leave, or their behavior has to change, which is for the better either way.
Yeah.
Right? So that part's good. But then it's like, okay, well, let's say we figured that part out. Then where is the shift in demographics? Some of that, I think, is maybe some people started gaming together, more friends, more significant others, more whatever, because you couldn't just go out and do all your different things, right? So now it's like, okay, maybe a few more people came out to the event together. Maybe some couples came to the event together. But it seems like there's a different feel for everybody. And let's be honest, a bunch of people that weren't in this like super competitive mindset.
True.
Because I feel like for all games, and as well as I do, like, you almost didn't see a game come out if they didn't have like an idea for some tournament structure or whatever for a while. Everything was based around some level of competitiveness. Whereas now I think people came out and it was like, well, there is a big competitive prize, but none of the stuff we saw from the weekend was really about the competition. There was a few people said, hey, I made top 32 or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, that was cool. But it wasn't like people giving constant running updates or giving all the winning stats on different decks or, this is the breakdown of the field and all this stuff, because that used to be all we got out of tournaments. This time it was like, oh, hey, I finally got to hang out with so-and-so, or hey, I'm hanging out with these people from my Discord, or I got to meet the professor, or CGB's over here doing a thing, or, this group is hanging out together for the first time in however long, right? That's really what the event was, more than, oh, this person won the money. Hell, to be honest, I can't even tell you who won the 2 events on the weekend. I'm sure I could go look them up, but like normally at the end of a big event like that, that's usually one of the first things you see posted that registers because you don't see all that other stuff. Like, I don't know, but do you know who won either of the events?
I don't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I probably should know, and I will go eventually look up the stuff because I've been interested in building a new modern deck and all that stuff. But it was cool seeing such a change of pace. And I don't know if the focus, and again, this comes back to all these conversations we talked about, right? Where people say, well, why does Wizards not want to spend more money paying for the Pro League and all this stuff? And it's like, look, like, look how positive this was. And now don't get me wrong, all of this happened because there was a competitive event occurring, right? There was a draw for people to come to, and it brought people in the same space. But that was just like the centerpiece. And there was all these things happening in the orbit around it that were entertaining. It didn't have to be just about the main thing. Because it almost used to be the main event, and then you'd have all the stuff kind of below it, right? This time it felt more like the main event and everything else was around it. And I think that's a little bit of a different perspective. But I don't know, what were your takeaways from all this, man?
I mean, I also didn't hear a whole lot about it. Of course, I wasn't on, Magic Twitter a lot over the weekend with everything going on. So.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how long it lasts, I think is the thing for me. Is like, was this a one-off thing because we hadn't engaged in a while? Because everybody finally got to come out, meet people they've been putting off meeting or hoping to meet because, they hadn't run into them in a while. Everybody's on their best behavior because we're all making new introductions or reintroducing ourselves to people. But, let's say when we do this again for the 3rd time, the 4th time, maybe that 4th time isn't until April, May, June next year. But,
could be,
let's say that's the case. Does that change everybody's behavior? I hope not, because this felt very positive and a lot of people came back with positive feelings. So, I hope it stays that way. And, for other games too, not even just Magic. I hope the next convention or board game thing or whatever I go to feels the exact same way. I mean, I hope we stay on this positive trend because, we talked about several things here on the show of just all types of issues with people manipulating people and people needing to be fired for racist stuff and all the stuff that's happened at Blizzard and blah, 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 blah. So a lot of things have come to light and we've cleaned up a lot of stuff in the last 20 months or whatever it's been. So hopefully we get to stay on that trend for sure. I will say, though, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. We did see a couple of people post on Twitter over the last, probably about the last 48 hours as of the recording, saying, they had positive COVID tests coming back from Vegas. A couple of them, I want to say Jeremy Noel, maybe, I think was one. He does some stuff over with Star City. And this isn't to say that like he was being irresponsible, and he's one of the people that posted, and there were a couple of others, but the thing for me, I think, and I'm not saying any of these people who got it were irresponsible or that they were one of the people doing it.
Yeah, because we can't even prove they got it there. I mean,
exactly. They could have got it from anywhere, in the airport. They could have got it from somebody before they left home. It could have been anything. So I'm not putting this judgment on any of the people, but just from a behavioral standpoint, because I did see some pictures from different folks where at the event, credit to Star City. I mean, that's right, to Channel Fireball, because they were running the event. And it looked like whoever was in charge of checking for masks, vaccines, whatever, everybody did their part. Nobody had any issues. I mean, every picture, everyone was masked up, even the cosplayers, like everybody. Like, no issues. The thing, though, is an event you attend can be as safe as you want it to be. But if the people are immediately going to leave that event and go do something that's very unsafe, then you're compromising the quality of the event. Like let's say you went to play Magic Vegas, and then at the end of the night, you're like, cool, we're going to go hang out in the casino and play craps or whatever with a bunch of people around a craps table with no mask on. Well, now you're shoulder to shoulder around a bunch of strangers for the next, I don't know, let's call it 2 hours, just playing on the craps table, and you don't know their vaccination status. Right? You don't know if they've had COVID or not. Hell, you don't know if they have COVID right now. Right? And then, though you are masked up and everything, you're going back into the venue with other people. Right? That's the concern. Because I told y'all before, when I went and did the event in Texas, I think I ventured out of the, like, we had an adjoined hotel and event space. So I was literally able to leave my hotel room, go right down to the announcer booth. I mean, it was all of maybe like a 2-minute excursion, maybe 3. I left the venue, I think twice. I left once to go to a Potbelly to get a sandwich. And I left another time to go straight into a Target and out to grab a thing I needed to do some editing work or recording. Because I think I needed a new headset or something. And that was it. And even then, the entire time I left the venue, I was masked up. I tried not to hang around people. I was trying to make sure I was spaced out, all that stuff. Because I also didn't want to bring something in and compromise the event. Because they were doing their part, checking for masks and all of the good stuff, So I didn't want to be one of the people to compromise that. And I'm not saying that makes me any better or worse or whatever, just my personal views. But it's tough because, even being at that event in Texas, I knew that there were people when I went to Target. I mean,
of course,
I would say at least half the people were probably just walking around no mask, which was crazy to me coming from the Northwest where you might see 1 or 2 people without masks.
It's still that way.
Yeah. So it's like, it's such a different experience. So I don't know. Like I said, if it's one thing if we're hanging out and we know each other and we know we're vaccinated and all that stuff, and you're at my hotel room, whatever, that's probably reasonable. But to just go out to a place and just hang out and drink and party and whatever, and you want to go to a club, whatever, and you're hanging around with no mask and you're in close quarters, that would make me uncomfortable still. I don't think I would do that. Especially now, I will say this. If it was just me and somebody I came with and we were doing the exact same activities and we were taking the exact same risks and we're staying in the same hotel room, I probably care less. I could at least see somebody's logic there. But if I'm doing a thing where I have to go back and be around a bunch of other people or whatever, now it becomes a different experience for me. Because I don't know about you, I do the same thing even when I'm driving. Like I might drive a little bit faster, take corners a little bit when I'm by myself. But when I got people in the car, whole different experience. Like, because now I'm responsible for a whole lot of other bodies in this car, right? It's probably a bad mindset. I know it's a bad mindset, right? And I'm not saying like I'm significantly more dangerous. It's just like I know I can be more careless in a lot of things in life when it's just affecting me. But I change up when I know it affects a lot of other people. Same thing with business, right? If I made a decision that was only going to affect me, no big deal. But it was going to affect the whole shop and my employees and everything else, I thought a little longer and a little different about the decision. So to me, the same thing kind of applies here. But I don't know, man. We talked about this last couple of weeks. Where are you at as far as like when you go and venture into the world or into an event, or taking your family or whatever? Because you've got even a different perspective than I have because you've still got the kids at home and everything else that I don't necessarily have. So how does this stuff all affect you when you start thinking about events?
I mean, we're really not going to any events for the most part. We go see Ball, and that's about the extent of it. We might now. Tish and I went to a restaurant for my birthday. That's about as outside. And of course, we also go get groceries, and that's about it.
Well, I want to ask you because, like, again, I don't have kids, but like, how are they holding up with? Because I'm sure in Texas they have to see all the other kids like their parents are taking them to go do whatever, or there's going to be this party at so-and-so's house. Like, how are they able to deal with that with everything going on?
Gabby's even more strict than we are because Tish was thinking about possibly going to the tree lighting, and Gabby's like, "I'm not vaccinated. I'm not going." She's 11.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Because didn't you have one of your boys that was starting to try to think about like competitive gaming at one point? Because I know y'all have that esports center over in Arlington or whatever, and obviously, I guess y'all haven't done that since COVID started.
No, we have not. And I mean, I think we're getting to where we want to and just trying to decide, how comfortable we are with it. And really, I said it hadn't been in 2 years now.
Yeah, that's so tough, man. Like, and it's one of the things, and I do envy you because I don't know if I would have been able, because I see all the stuff I've dealt with and all the questions I've answered or whatever. I can only imagine it's double time or triple time when you got kids at home and they're still trying to figure out the world and you've got to answer all
Yeah.
the stuff. Especially from gamers, right? Because we do gather, we do want to get together and trade things and go to tournaments and events and whatever, and like you just can't right now. I mean, that's got to be rough. So
Yeah,
yes,
it's just
so do you have plans, I guess, to eventually go to an event anytime in the foreseeable future, I guess I would say.
not anything that's concrete right now. It's just more like we'll be glad when we can, but we haven't set down a definite date when we're going to go to an event of any kind.
Yeah, I'm largely in the same boat. I'm even currently talking with one of the, I guess I can say this without like getting in trouble, but talking with one of the tournament series or tournament organizers, I should say, that runs multiple events. And that's one of the things is just like, when are they even going to be? What are the
Yeah.
protocols going to be around them? I don't know any of that stuff yet. So it's kind of hard to say like for sure I want to do it because I don't know anything around it, or even what they want me to do. Like there's going to be a difference if it's like, okay, cool. You just need me in a booth doing commentary or whatever. Okay, cool. Do you need me roaming around the floor doing a bunch of stuff? Like, those are different things, right? So I don't know. I think even if I do get to a point where I'm willing to go do these things, I'm gonna have to figure out like what jobs am I doing within those events to even see if I'm totally comfortable to do it yet. Until I get, like we talked about last week, get my emotional and mental states back together on wanting to do these events. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, people said, "Do you have FOMO from not being at the events or not?" Like, to some extent, I'm sure I have a little bit. But I'm also one that like I don't really regret too many decisions, so I'm just kind of like, if it was right for me not to go, it was right for me not to go, and then I just spend my time doing something else. But I do feel like I missed opportunities. I for sure didn't get as much content or other stuff that I could have gotten by being there. Made some connections by being there, which would have been nice. So that's a little bit disappointing, but at the end of the day, I'm just happy it went well. We've seen very few cases reported, which is nice. A bunch of people are coming back saying, "Hey, I followed up, I tested, I was negative," all that. So that's really good. It does go to show that at least if you take all the precautions, making sure people are vaccinated or have a negative COVID test, everybody's wearing masks, you're spacing stuff out, you have sanitizer available, it does make a difference. Because from the pictures, if I were guessing, I don't know what the final total was, but it looked like there was a couple thousand people there. And to have virtually none, I mean, there was a handful, but so far, virtually no cases reported from the event, no outbreak or anything is pretty nice. So it says that these steps do work, whether people want to admit it or not, whether people feel inconvenienced by it or not. Like we have proof that doing these things results in almost no cases. Same thing with the event with the Hunter Burton we did. Everybody's on top of it. Everybody's wearing masks. We reduced the attendance for the event, all that stuff, and it made a difference, right? So whether you believe in COVID or not, or whether you believe in vaccines or not, or whatever, like you can't reasonably deny that these steps work. Because even think about this: the fact that at Magic Vegas you had that many people hanging out, doing all this stuff, people that hadn't seen each other in forever, probably hugging or whatever, and doing all that. And even with some people coming down with COVID or having had COVID at the event, we didn't have an outbreak. There's a reason for that, right? Like you can say what you want, but precautions work. So yeah, hopefully, we'll keep the reports positive, and the next event will go just as well. Now, one of the things I do want to mention, and this is way more fun of a topic, is that one Mr. Beast, which we've talked about before. It's hard if you're involved in internet YouTube stuff, it's hard to not mention or at least see Mr. Beast at some point. The dude, by the way, now is already up to 70 million subscribers, which is such a phenomenally big number. But Mr. Beast just released a video on Wednesday that cost him over $2 million. And he recreated all the games of Squid Game and invited 456 participants to be in the Squid Game to compete for $456,000. And not only that, like a bunch of people got out early, got like $2,000. I think the second place winner got like $10,000. Somewhere in the middle, he did a thing that if you just wanted to leave to eliminate yourself, you got like $4,000. Like, so he gave away a ton of extra money on top of it. Right. But this dude, he is doing stuff like, here's the thing. I haven't even watched Squid Game. So, feel free to vilify me for that one. But I've seen enough clips and, I've seen pictures and whatever. And dude, I mean, he had people dressed in the jumpsuits or whatever, like with their numbers on them. And to replicate people getting shot, he had them wear these, like you do in the movies. You have the little body pack, so
Yeah.
whenever you get shot, a little pop goes off on their gut or whatever. So like he really went all out. Like I see why it costs so much money, but I mean, because think about it, he had to outfit 400 and some people with basically fake explosives. And then he still had all his staff he had to pay, and and there's another guy who did the video of just like recreating pieces for him, whatever. So he enlisted a bunch of different people, like just a wild production, and I sit around and think like, I'm excited I got new lights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever I'm
He's
making
on another level right now.
Oh yeah, like he could literally, hell, he could probably make a reasonable investment in the company that makes my lights. Yeah, and I'm excited just to have 2 new lights. But just seeing what this dude does, excuse me, and how much he gives away is phenomenal. Like he's doing stuff that most YouTubers have never even considered doing. And not only that, I guess it was Monday, he put out a video because last week they did a food drive and they got with Genio, the company that makes a lot of food, obviously, and they donated 10,000 turkeys to different families in this town. I think they gave away all but the last like few hundred, and then they took those to a food shelter and gave those away. And that was from his Mr. Beast philanthropy channel. That literally all the money they make on the channel goes into more philanthropy. That's a channel that makes no money. It's 100% charity, and he keeps just rolling it up. So if you subscribe, you watch the videos, you donate, whatever, all that money that's generated on the channel goes to just doing more thing. And he did stuff where like after the last hurricane, they went out, helped people get new places, put people up in hotels, made meals for the whole town. Like just amazing stuff this guy's doing. So, and as much as he's like a goofball and his friends are silly and they're doing like silly Minecraft content and all this other stuff, like, and it's fun doing giveaways where, if you can stand in the circle for this long, we're going to give you $1 million or whatever. Like, the dude is doing so many bigger things with it. He's literally like, I want to be like Mr. Beast when I grow up. That's basically what I'm saying, right? If I could make that kind of money and help that many people, that would be phenomenal. And the best thing about what he's doing is it is actually changing content. Like you're seeing more people doing videos on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, where they're just like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And if people do this positive interaction with me, I'm going to give them $1,000. There's one dude, he was literally just walking around the store and I can't remember, there was some fun song he was singing. And if somebody decided to sing it with him or they sang the next verse, he was just going to give him a pile of money. And he had to walk through the grocery store, and the first 6, 7 people were just like, "What's up with this weirdo?" And then he finally found a person.
By the way, a perfectly normal reaction.
Yeah, what's funny though is I'm an idiot. I probably would have just sang along because I would have thought it was funny. But I
what was the song? I don't know if I know the song.
Oh, I can't remember what it was. It was just it was like a simple, fun song that people knew, like a kid's rhyme or something or whatever. But it's cool seeing people do more of that content. That not everything has to be so serious and upsetting and stressful and whatever. Like you can do a lot of fun stuff and still get paid and still get the reactions and still grow your channel. Because we've talked about it before, man. Like how many creators have you seen that are just negative all the time? How many reporters have you seen that only want to talk about the negative stories? Or how many people do watch that game and are constantly upset and insulting their opponents and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, not everything has to be that way, man. So I don't know. Have you ever watched any of Mr. Beast stuff?
Yeah, he's crushing it.
Yeah, his whole production's on a different level, man.
Because
really
you said, as you said, there's so much negative content. Before, you wouldn't have had any example that positive content could succeed, because I've worked for a number of places where we're just gonna do positive news and it shuts down because nobody reads it or watches it. So this is he's doing a revolution, really.
That is a good point. I mean, before, I guess you had small examples, but nobody that had been really successful.
Yeah, nobody this successful, certainly.
Yeah, you're right.
I worked for a number of newspapers where, hey, we're just going to it's going to be all happy stories. And that project lasts somewhere 6 months, maybe a year if you had a whole lot of seed investment. But almost every place I've worked where it was just positive news for one reason or another ended up shutting down. The people are like, hey, the mayor's got a mistress. Yeah, those places stay in business because it's just everyone wants to know about that. Or I don't say everybody, but enough people where it stays in business want to know about that.
Because I was thinking, even like the family content and family related stuff, they always try to end up playing it into the family drama, other than just letting it be the positive stories. So yeah, I guess at the top level there weren't many.
Look at your news networks now. We got Fox, CNN, MSNBC. There's nobody really just doing, hey, somebody discovered a puppy today.
Oh, dude, I was upset yesterday because we're still doing that story about the dude who ran over 5 people in the parade or whatever, right? Yeah. That's been 2.5 days worth of news when there's no new facts. It's literally, we know who the guy was. He's already been arrested. We know who he hit. We know the people that were injured. We know the body counts. We know how many people are in the hospital. We know the make and model of the vehicle. We know the path he took to get there. But we will talk about that for 2.5 days. Instead of saying like,
and if numbers show that you don't want to talk about it, they'll stop. But the numbers show that people want to talk about it.
So, I mean, it's cool having people out here doing this type of content and doing just really fun, big stuff. And I love that he's still doing, the Squid Game thing. That's just like, I want to do something big and crazy and give money away or whatever because I can. And then utilizing that and the popularity from that stuff to say, yeah, but there's these serious issues you need to pay attention to. We're going to go give food to people that aren't going to have it for Thanksgiving. We're going to go give laptops to these underprivileged schools so these kids can learn and have the same advantages, right? We're going to help these people after these hurricanes so they don't have to be without a home. It's so cool to see that, because you always hope that there are going to be people to do that, but it's cool to see somebody actually take that initiative.
So, and as you said, we're seeing that spread to other content creators. So, hey, maybe someday it hits television.
Sure, hope so. Man, that would be awesome. But yeah, maybe one day we'll be in the position to do it. I don't know. Even on a small scale, I'd be happy. Yeah. But let's talk about a little stuff here in the dinner table. And this comes because I had someone ask me a question. And this is back about the Vegas events this past weekend. That they said, like, do you think there's a reason that there were fewer of the Black content creators in a lot of these photos, and or a reason that a lot of the Black players were not necessarily in attendance at Magic Vegas? And I really didn't have a great explanation, other than like, first off, let me say, I don't have the vibe or the feel that anybody was excluding anyone. I don't think that was the issue. Hell, I had several people that even up until 2 days before were like, hey, if you still change your mind, you can come stay in my Airbnb with me or whatever, So people were inviting me out, right? It just, I made the decision not to go. Even for me, it wasn't even like a money thing. I had the money for the plane ticket. Obviously, I would have had a free room, whatever. But I don't know. Like I feel like several of the Black creators I spoke to just made the decision to not go. And I don't know. And I don't know about you, Brian. Like for me, it was more of I think more of an emotional health concern, I will say. Because I think mentally, I'm in a pretty good place where I know the odds are pretty low, whatever. But we talked about it last week. I think emotionally, I don't think I was quite there yet. But, and I'll give you a chance to speak here too. But for me, there is a part that I think I know enough about events and I know enough about the industry that was I also emotionally prepared to deal with the normal junk that comes with being at an event. right? And I don't think it was like a high level. If I were like prioritizing reasons, it probably would have been like, if I made a 10 list, it probably would have been 9 or 10. But I think there's still something there that when you're on the fence, you kind of go like, but yeah, I don't know if I want to deal with the knuckleheads. Or I've seen all the stuff online. I don't know which of the like, I don't know which of the bad actors are going to show up or not, and whatever. Now it turns out a lot of them didn't, and that's pretty cool. So it makes it a little easier to make the decision next time. But there's also already not a lot of us. That's the other thing, and we've talked about that before. Like, you just don't have proportionally a lot of Black creators or a lot of Black players. And there's the societal thing says there's Black Twitter and there's Black YouTube or whatever, right? But to an extent, those things do exist for every minority community, and people talk. And I think if several of the more known or prominent figures weren't going, then some of the other people probably also didn't go. Because you knew, okay, well, that's a few more people that aren't going to be there, or a few more positive interactions I'm not going to get to have, or whatever. And I'm sure that affects it on some level. Now, I'm not going to say that, we had a conference of Black creators and we decided that, okay, well, 8 of you aren't going, I guess the rest of us aren't going, right? It was nothing like that. But I just think on small levels, it's a type of thing we think about, and I've said that before. Like, there's some tournaments I didn't go to because I kind of knew the situation. And if you're not sure, you kind of don't want to go in a situation where the odds are already going to get worse. So I'm sure that affected to some extent, but I don't know. I'll let you, Brian. Like, what is your reasoning as to why you think this was the case, or why you didn't go?
I mean, I just had about 15 different projects fall into my lap, so I didn't have you. Even if I had decided I had the money, I wouldn't have had the time to go. So, and just terms of family and professional things, where it just wasn't even something I really had a chance to look at. So, I didn't talk to anybody about it other than you. As you said, when there was no conference of, hey, the Black delegation has decided we're not supporting this. It was just personal that I didn't have the time to go this time.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, because I ended up working on things myself. And, maybe that's it at the end of it. I don't think there was maybe one reason for anybody that didn't go. I just think it's just when there's already not a lot of them, when any reasonable number of them do not show up,
yeah,
it's going to look pretty disparate. Like, there's going to be
how many, I'm trying to think just off the top of my head, how many Black Magic content creators, including us, would you say there are?
Man. Well, okay. I would say, we'll say prominent people that have more than like 1,000 followers on Twitter, maybe have more than like 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. Maybe. Man, I'm gonna feel bad if I even give a hard number. Maybe like 15-ish. Maybe. I mean, there's not a lot that I would say are prominent. There's a couple.
That probably that sounds about right.
Because you've got what's his name, Joseph, over on I Hate Your Deck. Like, they've got their thing. Anomaly, she's been doing a lot lately with like Twitter and stuff, so she's been pretty prominent. There's a couple of creators like Stacks Ramen and MTG Blackhammer, whatever, they've been producing videos over on YouTube. Obviously, you have like Cedric, and Cedric actually went.
Yep.
He played. He did pretty well. I think he finished top 32 in the modern event. Yeah, there's a few, but not a lot of us. Not a lot. So
as you said, when there's probably less than 100, and out of that, less than 100, most of them don't go.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, as you said, Cedric was there. Who else was there?
Oh, I'd have to go back and look. There was a few, but not many. And that's why I tell people too, if you go do a YouTube search for like Magic the Gathering, MTG Arena, whatever, like on your first, I don't know, 30 videos or 50 videos, you might see 2 with Black personalities, maybe. There's just not a lot. So if any reasonable number don't show up of that group, well, it's gonna look like almost none of them were there. I mean, there's really nothing to it. Player wise, I think it's still just percentages of the community. I don't think. And again, I would say most of the people I follow, most people I saw posting things or whatever would have totally been welcoming if I was there. I don't think it's the community directly pushing people out or anything like that. I just think it's just coincidental. Like you're saying, it's small numbers, and then just combined with situations, and then some people just not being there, and it is what it is. But it is something that we're seeing slowly change over time. We're seeing more people getting attention, but like we said before, if you see a minority creator, subscribe, follow their stuff, share their stuff, whatever, because you have to, again, train the recommendation systems to understand, I like seeing these people. I want to see more of this people. Oh, they didn't mind. The guys over at One More Mana, they're doing pretty well too. But, you know, if you don't, you just get seeing more of the same, right? So if you want to help those communities grow and whatever, like you have to actively get involved and actively support them and actively follow them. And then you'll start getting more recommended and they become part of your normal rotation. But if you don't, they just don't. That's just kind of, and that works with everything. If you want to see more women, you want to see more LGBT folks, you want to see more Asians, you want to see whatever, like you have to actively be, at least for several weeks, follow that content, like the video, share the stuff, whatever. And then the systems start to recognize, like, oh, you like these people's content. Let me recommend more of these other people or this other similar content or person or whatever. And then you get it. But if you don't, it's just not going to happen, because all the recommendation systems are designed to show you more of what you already like. Like, hell, all of us has gone and bought a shirt, and then for the next month, all the ads you're getting are like, you need a shirt? Here's a shirt from these people. Here's a shirt on sale from here. You want a long sleeve shirt? Yeah, you want a 3/4 sleeve shirt? You want like, damn, I already bought the shirt. I don't need more shirts, But that's
cartoon character, you just need a whole closet full of that same shirt.
Yeah, exactly. But literally, that's a good way to explain to people how the recommendation systems work, right? Like, you've proven you had interest in a thing, so it's going to keep showing you more of that thing. And until you change your behaviors or you start Google searching or YouTube searching other things, it's going to keep showing you these other things. And then over time, it gradually changes. And then, oh, now you need pants. Like, no, I already went to Kohl's and got a pair of pants, but that's what it is, though. So, yeah, that's all. Just, support more of them, invite more of them out, just be more inclusive, and it'll take care of itself. Eventually, y'all will get to meet me and Brian in person at an event. I promise. Maybe not even at the same event, but at an event. We'll get back out sooner or later. Well, Brian, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media when you're not doing the show?
I am DL Caesar on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and our family channel on YouTube is Alan's Ever After.
You can find me just about everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn, or you can also check out PowrDragn Reviews, where I'm now trying all different types of wacky food and doing reviews and other stuff. I just recently did a review of an Aussie food box, which lots of Australian snacks, so that was kind of fun. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourself and your family with the COVID out there and the flu and who knows what else. And remember to be awesome and be awesome to each other.